Welcome to Trials, Tribulations and Tea and Murder in the Summer House. On this channel I share crimes, disasters and unusual reportage. Please be advised that viewer discretion is advised and that some content reflects the attitudes of the time. My cuppa today is green tea with jasmine. The use of jasmine flowers to scent tea leaves dates back over 1,000 years and is delicious hot or cold. Settle down with your favourite brew and join me for the sad case of Mrs. Luard, murder most foul. Caroline Mary Luard was the wife of Major General C.E. Luard, and although he was 12 years her senior, they married in 1887, went on to have 2 sons, and to all intents had a very happy marriage. Her murder caused a sensation at the time and also led on to another tragedy. So here is the tale of murder, robbery and much more. The couple lived at Ightham Knoll, just outside the village of Ightham, near Sevenoaks in Kent. Major General Luard had a distinguished military career. He served in the Royal Engineers and was involved in several building projects, included the United Services Recreation Ground in Portsmouth and the Household Cavalry Barracks at Windsor. He also served overseas in Corfu, Gibraltar, Bermuda and Natal, and upon his retirement in October 1987, he was awarded the honorary rank of Major General. Although not a lot is known about Caroline's life as a wife and mother, she was well respected and known for her charitable works locally. In the afternoon of August 24th, 1908, the Major and his wife left home at 2:30 p.m. for a walk. The former left Mrs. Luard to go on to the Godden Green Golf House for his clubs, as they intended going out for the weekend. They were expecting a guest for tea, and Mrs. Stewart, a friend of Caroline's, so they arranged to see each other shortly at home. So they parted ways at the wicket gate leading on to land owned by Mr. Horace Wilkinson, with the Major continuing on to collect his golf clubs and Caroline continuing on for a short walk. The path through the woods was a favourite walk of Mrs. Luard's, which she used almost daily when at home. The Major was seen by several people for the next 35 minutes en route to the clubhouse, at the clubhouse, and on his departure. The local vicar was passing by and offered him a ride home in his car, which he accepted and arrived home at 4:25 p.m. Caroline, meanwhile, had been intending to walk through the woods near Frankfield, Mr. Wilkinson's property, passing his summer house and then on to home. When I say summer house, this was a small bungalow in the grounds with several rooms and a veranda on the property. It's pictured below. On arriving home, the Major General found Mrs. Luard missing and their guests sitting waiting. These are his words. "We waited," he says, "some time, and when she did not appear, we wondered what had delayed her, and the lady said, 'Let us go and look for her.' The Irish terrier which was accompanying us scampered on ahead, and I saw him stop in front of the veranda of the summer house in the wood. The undergrowth was too thick for me to see anything at first, but when I got to the spot, I found my wife's lifeless body lying on the ground and the dog licking the face of his mistress." Caroline Luard had been hit on the head and then shot twice through her head. Her gloves had been ripped off, such that they were inside out, her valuable rings stolen, and her pocket cut. What was termed a pocket in Edwardian times was actually a purse that normally hung from the waist. The Major at once ran a mile to the coachman's house and summoned assistance. The police and a doctor arrived, but nothing could be done for the unfortunate lady, who had been dead about 2 hours. Shots had been heard coming from the direction of the summer house at 3:30 by a farmhand General Luard having left his wife at 3 o'clock. It was 5:15 when he made the tragic discovery. The body of the murdered lady was removed to her home, having to be carried about 2 miles through a dark, heavily timbered wood. At the post-mortem examination of the body on Tuesday, it was concluded that Mrs. Luard was first struck by her assailant on the head from behind with some blunt instrument, then shot from close quarters at the back of the ear, and afterwards shot a second time at the side of the cheek by the eye. The theory is that the lady was first struck and partially stunned, and that the shot behind the ear did not prove immediately fatal, so a second shot was fired and the murder completed. About 30 police resumed searching the woods on Tuesday, but the heavy rain which fell during the night had obliterated all footmarks, and the search was in vain. It was well known in the neighbourhood that Mrs. Luard wore valuable jewellery and was in the constant habit of going to favourite haunts in the woods. Perhaps her assailant lay in wait for her, implying previous knowledge. Despite being able to provide an alibi for the entire time, the Major faced the wrath of the uninformed, declaring him the murderer, although for what reason no one could say. He offered up all 3 of the revolvers he owned, and none matched the bullet holes found in Caroline's skull, yet he received death threats and vicious hate mail. The police were unable to make much headway with the case, and the Chief Constable of Kent issued a circular offering £1,000 reward to anyone giving any information before January 1909, as may lead to the apprehension and conviction of the person or persons guilty of the murder of Mrs. Luard. But this drew a few cranks and unfortunate souls out of the woodwork, none of whom were guilty of the crime. But discovery of a pawned ring, as reported in the press at the time. Discovery today of a ring believing to have been worn by Mrs. Luard at the time of the tragedy. The ring, which was found in a pawn shop at Tunbridge, is stated to have been pledged by a woman for £2. And the police are busily following up this important clue. Needless to say, this discovery led nowhere. This is Major Luard at his wife's funeral. As time went on, it became clear that no one was going to be charged with the murder, and the Major became more depressed with not only the loss of his wife, but the unfounded allegations levelled against him. The tragic sequel to this tale is that on a Friday morning, General Luard committed suicide by throwing himself in front of a southeastern passenger train at Teston Crossing. Frederick Bridges, engine driver employed by the South Eastern and Chatham Railway Company, said he took the 9 o'clock train out of Maidstone West to Tunbridge on Friday morning. Between East Farley and Waterbury, he saw a gentleman coming towards him. He gave 2 sharp whistles and applied his brakes, of course, but the gentleman went beneath the train, and the witness knew he would be cut in half. Knowing what had happened, the witness stopped in a train's length. The gentleman seemed to put up his arm in the air and fall beneath the train. Witnesses did not knock him down, he fell down, and the train passed over him. The coroner said, "Was it a deliberate act?" "Yea," said the driver. Police Sergeant Masters, who searched the body at Burren Court, disposed of finding an envelope but no letter. The only other property on the body was a handkerchief, and the linen was marked C.E. Luard. On the envelope were the words, "General Luard's body. Take to Colonel Ward's. Gone to join her." He left many letters to friends and family. His letter to Colonel Ward, with whom he was staying as a guest. "My dear Ward, I am so sorry to have to return your kindness and hospitality and long friendship in this way, but I am satisfied it is best to join her in the second life at once, as I can be of no further use to anyone in the future in this world, of which I am tired, and in which I do not wish to live any longer. I thought my strength was strong enough to bear up against the horrible imputations and terrible letters which I have received since the awful crime was committed. It has robbed me of my happiness. The goodness, the kindness and sympathy of so many friends during the last day or 2 has kept me going. But somehow during the last day or two something seems to have snapped. The strength has left me, and I care nothing except to join her. So goodbye, dear friend. To both of us, yours very affectionately, C.E. Luard. P.S. I shall be somewhere on the line of the railway. Please send enclosed telegrams to Elmhurst, his son, my brother-in-law, and my maid. Superintendent Ford of the Kent County Constabulary searched the bedroom of Colonel Ward's house, which had been occupied by the deceased. On the dressing table he found a gold watch and chain with locket attached, a compass, 2 bunches of keys. On the writing table were a pair of spectacles, a pipe, tobacco pouch and stamps. There was also a telegram form, torn in 6 pieces, which on being put together read, Willink, Kendall, I've gone to her I ever loved. Goodbye, something has snapped. Luard. Mr. Willink was a half-brother by marriage of the late General. There were also 2 letters addressed to Captain Luard, DSO, the son, and T. Hartley, Esquire. The one to Mr. Hartley was as follows. My dear Tom, something has snapped. My strength has gone. I've gone to join her. I've left her everything, but now I've made a new will, leaving everything to Elmhurst, and you as sole executor. Goodbye, dear brother. Ever yours, C.E. Luard. P.S. It is all the horrid letters and insinuations which have been made. The press received the following letter from Mr. Thomas Winter Kenyon, a nephew of Mrs. Luard. As the nephew of Mrs. Luard, and as one who, in common with all that knew them, held both her and her devoted husband in deep affection and respect, may I be permitted to point out the responsibility of the writers of the anonymous letters, which we know broke his already overburdened heart. That there could be found people capable of making, on no grounds whatsoever, and in direct opposition to the evidence at the inquest, the hideous suggestion contained in these letters, seems incredible to all who knew anything either of the late General or of the wife, who was all in all to him. That the writers of these letters were responsible in the fullest sense of the word is open to doubt, but that they murdered General Luard as surely as the unknown ruffian murdered his wife is not. To them the spectacle of an aged gentleman suffering almost unimaginable grief was an incitement not to the utmost pity and solicitude, but to the lust for sheer stupid cruelty that staggers one to contemplate. That a distinguished soldier and father of soldiers whose life has been spent in his country's service should, when heavily stricken by sorrow, be driven to death. A very sad tale of robbery, murder, loss and suicide, with no one ever brought to justice. If you enjoyed this true life tale, do subscribe and hit the notification button, and I'll be back with more true life stories. Many thanks.